Good afternoon. My name is Dana Marsh, and I'm director of the Historical Performance Institute of the Indiana University Jacobs School of Music. It's a pleasure to welcome you today for this part one of a tribute to the bad boy of the bassoon, Michael McCraw. Michael McCraw had an affiliation with the Indiana University Jacobs School of Music that spanned more than 15 years. And during that time, he served a substantial stint as director of the then Early Music Institute. He put on a number of very inspired projects, one of which involves the New York Baroque Dance Company. We hope that you'll join us both today and tomorrow for this wonderful tribute. So sit back and you'll hear from his former students, colleagues, to paint that wonderful picture that was Michael McCraw.
Yay! Welcome, Elisabeth Wright, to your own house.
It's so nice to be here and to have company.
It's delightful to see you're the first actual person I've seen, and I knew what your mouth looked like, but I haven't seen it for a
very
long
long time. It's true.
Tell me, Elisabeth, when is the first time you laid eyes on Michael McCraw?
In the mid to late 70s at Aston Magna, he was one of the bassoon players there, and I remember thinking, what a dashing looking gentleman. And then he immediately made himself very present, as he always did. It didn't matter what he was doing, whether he was playing his bassoon or whether he just made an entrance into a room. One paid attention to this extremely wonderful personality, and I was delighted by him.
Reginald Michael
Yes,
McCraw. Reginald Michael McCraw was born on October 19th, 1948, to a fiddler and banjo picker in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Michael learned to read music at the age of 5, singing shape note hymns in a rural church. In his childhood, he had piano lessons, and I remember he said that his grandmother gave him money for practicing. It sounded like a good deal to me. And then he took up clarinet in high school, and then in his senior year began to play bassoon. He's one of the very early students at the North Carolina School of the Arts. It hadn't been open for long, and there are lots of people who were great friends of his who will remember those days. But he's saying by 1973 is when he got interested in the early stuff, when there were no teachers, and as with so many of us oldies, especially for the bassoon, there were no teachers. Nobody knew how to make reeds. Nobody had a clue, so he got to make it all up. It's worth saying that Michael approved the obituary. That is worth saying, because it was not written as an obituary originally. It was written as his retirement portrait that went into the program for the retirement dinner for the year that he retired, 2014, I believe. But we got together because I was chair at the time, and I was asked to write something, and I thought, well, I might as well see what Michael wants, and so that is what amounted. That's what led to such paragraphs as, in addition to being a singular musician and teacher, Michael McCraw was also a singular human being. He remained a country boy despite his international career, and he loved sitting on the porch of his house, drinking and smoking with friends. Michael, the bon vivant and raconteur extraordinaire, really knew how to throw both a dinner for 2 and a reception for 50. An avid and creative cook, his interest in food inspired him to undertake a recipe book whose working title was White Trash Visits Italy by Tiramisu Bassano. He was well known as a patron of all the finer eating and drinking establishments in Bloomington. I mean, that was the unofficial.
Right.
The unofficial Michael, I would think.
Yeah.
Michael was extraordinary in every way possible. He had a very generous spirit. He was pure fun all the time, and just had a zest for life. He always went on fun escapades. There was definitely never a dull moment. We would frequently go to Bears or Serendipity or even Atlas Bar, downtown Bloomington, where Michael introduced me to his favorite gin, North Shore Gin, made in Chicago. And oftentimes when I would travel to Chicago, I would have to bring him this gin back because it wasn't yet available for purchase in Indiana. Not only was Michael a passionate teacher and passionate about each and every one of his students, he was passionate about fashion and his clothes. He was a fashionista at heart. He had a colorful wardrobe, complete with his leather vest that he would often perform in or even go out for a night on the town in. And he had enough accessories to make any woman jealous. When I think of Michael, I think of the great storyteller that he was. He always had a story to share. Sometimes it was the same story that you had heard from his time in Germany over and over, so many times that you could recite it from heart. But you didn't dare interrupt Michael and his storytelling. When he was about to tell a story, his eyes would light up and they'd get bigger and he would be filled with excitement and he would just wave his arms and hands around to help share his story. He definitely loved being the center of attention.
Of the two Michaels that I know, the outside personable Michael and the professional Michael, my favorite personal Michael story was, well, I have two. The first one was when he came to my birthday party after I had just given my written exams. I had this 8-hour day of nothing but writing, and it was my birthday, and I wanted to to have a big party. He came over, and it was just a great time. We just all hung out and played music, and it was great. The other favorite memory I have is when it was like a weekday or something, and we went to the grocery store, And it was like 10 o'clock at night, I don't know. And we ran into Michael at the grocery store, and he was like, hey, I'm going dancing. You want to come?
And we were so tired.
We're like, oh, we're tired. We got to go home and go to bed.
Yep. Well, I think for me, my favorite memory of Michael was just how large his personality was. And the thing I will always cherish was the fact that he, of all people, was the person who taught me how to put my emotions aside. And for the first time in lessons, I felt like I could really check my emotions at the door and just focus on the music. And for someone with such a big personality like his, I really think it's a very surprising and valuable memory.
Yeah, I think for me, is his professional persona was, for one, he always treated you as a colleague.
Oh yeah.
Which was just admirable, given his success. You never felt like you were being talked down to, or you never felt like you were beneath him. You were always, to him, you were always a colleague. And I have him to thank for many things, including he gave me my first and probably only recording gig. My only entry in the discography comes from Michael. when I recorded with him for a CD of Baroque bassoon music, so I'll always remember him for that.
And that was the CD that Wash was on, wasn't
That's
it?
right, yeah. Washington.
Oh, I will say, I just thought of one other thing, and it was just that I remember when I first started studying with Michael, he was very proper and very contained and very professional. And as soon as he realized that I was dating you, the gloves were off. And then I really got to know Michael.
Real Michael, yes.
But regardless, I miss him every single day, and there isn't a day that goes by I don't think of him.
Same here.
I was a student of Michael's in Bloomington, starting in about the year 2000. I also have the honor of being Michael's successor in Tafelmusik Baroque Orchestra. Michael played in the orchestra for about 10 years, and like everywhere he went, he left a big impression. For several years after I joined the orchestra, people would come up to me after concerts in Toronto, or even on regular tour destinations such as our summer festival in Irsay, Germany, to ask about Michael and how he was doing, and to send their regards to him. I asked my colleagues in the orchestra for some good stories about Michael and his Tafelmusik days, and as you can imagine, there are a lot of them. Unfortunately, most of them are not really wholesome enough to share on camera. So you're going to have to catch me at a different time. Ask me the one about the guy from the bar in the elevator. Anyway, there is one I can tell you, though many of you might have already heard it. As you probably know, Michael was very fond of nicknames. Most recently, he liked to sign his correspondence as Arcangelo del Fagato. Well, in the early Tafelmusik days, he was known as La Principessa. And the story goes that during a rehearsal for an opera with Alan Curtis in Italy, Michael was asked to move a harpsichord. Michael's reply was, La Principessa non porta il cembalo, or the princess does not move harpsichords. 30 years later, we still like to say this. Michael was many things to many people, but I think he would most like to be remembered as the beautiful and stylish musician and dedicated master teacher that he was. To me, Michael was always at his best when playing continuo. I try to honor him in my playing and pass his legacy on to my own students.
I first met Michael when I was in my late 20s. We were at a party and we bonded instantly over a shared love of Curtis Mayfield and a good story. We became best buddies, and I have to say that every wonderful, the wildest and the craziest adventures that I've ever had involved Michael. When we were in our 30s, I was in my 30s and he was in his mid to late 40s, He got it into his head that we really needed to work out and get fit and deal with our health situation. To that end, we both paid an exorbitant fund for an annual membership at a new gym. In the beginning, we were absolutely devoted. Twice a week, religiously, we would show up to the gym. We would pump iron, we would sweat, and we also spent a fair amount of time getting tips from all the attractive muscle men on how to use all this array of equipment. To celebrate and reward ourselves for all the heavy and hard work we did every time we went to the gym, we would follow it by going downstairs and outside. About 40 steps away would be a local pub, and we'd head right in there and start smoking and drinking single whiskeys and talking about how we felt our muscles getting stronger and our lungs felt better. When I moved to Ireland, Michael came to visit me every summer. The first summer, he wanted to go and see Dublin. So my partner, who was a 6'4" former All-Ireland athlete, volunteered the job to take him on the pub crawl. I had booked a budget pedicure, and to my horror, I found out there was a really, really bad part of Dublin. So I said to Mark, please take DB and take him on a decent pub crawl. Halfway through my pedicure, I got a hysterical phone call from my partner saying, you've got to come right now. He has no clue what he's doing. We're in the worst part, east of O'Connell, and there are guys here. I think we're going to be killed in some alleyway. So I rushed through the pedicure and ran down to O'Connell. I went into every bar and I found them into the Duck and Dirt. And Michael was holding court at the bar with all these really, really tough dubs, guys with t-shirts rolled up, smokes in the t-shirt, tats, missing teeth, bruises on their bodies. And Michael was regaling them with stories and telling them what a fagata was. And these lads who were, probably carrying shivs and everything in their pocket, were sitting there going, hey, Mikey, that's a good story. Hey, you tell us another one. Hey, Mike, listen, we'll take you on a really good party tonight. You can come with us and we'll show you around, man. And it was just amazing that he had that capacity in a really dangerous situation to charm people and be human and connect on whatever level. One of the most wonderful things that I loved about Michael was that he absolutely had no judgment for anybody. And he believed to the core of his being in everyone's right to be who they are and what they are and do what they want and live their own life. And I will always remember that. The second year Michael came to Dublin, he's had a sense of the inner city. And so he went off exploring one afternoon. By 2 o'clock in the morning, Mike and I were getting very concerned. The pubs close at 11 o'clock at night in Dublin, only because they need to have the people home and sober to show up to work the next day. So we got in a car and drove into town. We started out at McGuigan's. Then we went to O'Connell's, all of the bars, and everybody said, oh, Mike, yeah, Mike. No, he went down to so-and-so's. After the sixth bar, we ended up at Panty's. And Panty was there, and Panty came up and said, oh, Mike, yeah, no, he was here. He's gone off with Dave and Kieran to some do. Well, we found him at 2 o'clock in the morning, again, in his element. But the most extraordinary thing was that having only been in Dublin for 3 days, every single place we went to, everybody knew him on a first name basis. The bartenders knew him, the customers knew him, and they all loved him. And I can tell you that Dublin's never been the same since Michael left. One day we went on a vacation. It was minus 20 degrees, and we ended up in Florida on a 4-day, extravaganza. We were lying on the beach in 22 Celsius, having cocktails, and I leaned over to him and I said, Michael, I hope we grow old together. To which he replied, honey, we are old. At that point, Michael said, when we're 60 and 50, if our knight in shining armor hasn't shown up to whisk us away, let's get married. And we were forever to each other DB, dearly betrothed. What I remember most about Michael is his profound and exceptional musicianship. He was unlike any other, and he's left an enormous legacy of recordings that we can hear and be informed of on each listening. But Michael was truly superb because every note, every ornament, every turn of phrase was a celebration of joy and a celebration of the wisdom and profundity that music brings to our life and teaches us. And I know that everyone who Michael touched in his long life will have that feeling, and we will carry those thoughts with us until we are gone. So to Michael, a really good single walt. You taught me everything I knew about whiskey. Thank you.